On March 28, 1997, I was there. In all of my years of watching Sharks hockey, I rarely saw a season that was downright horrible. 2015 was quite forgettable, with them missing the playoffs for the first time since 2003, and Tom McClellan would be out as Sharks head coach. For the most part, the Sharks would be in the Stanley Cup playoffs almost every season. This was one of those seasons where making a run for Lord Stanley's Cup just wasn't in the cards. The 1996-97 Sharks season was an ongoing comedy of errors. To their defense, they improved over the abomination that was the 1995-96 season, where the team won only 20 games, and even that didn't make them the worst team in the league. This was after making the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs the year before. But this team once again was bad. The team signed a whole slew of former Los Angeles Kings players such as Tony Granato, Marty McSorley, and Kelly Hrudey. Their coach would be Al Sims. In 1993, Sims won the Turner Cup, the championship of the International Hockey League, while coaching the Fort Wayne Komets. Before joining the Sharks, he served as an assistant coach on the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim to another figure who would become another Sharks head coach in the somewhat distant future, Ron Wilson. The team would once again finish at the bottom of the Western Conference and couldn't outsuck the Boston Bruins. It resulted in the Bruins drafting a guy who would join the Sharks later on down the line, Joe Thornton, and the Sharks drafting the first longtime Shark in Patrick Marleau. Let's just say that the best moment of that season was the San Jose Arena hosting the 1997 All-Star Game. Owen Nolan stole the show from the game's MVP Mark Recchi by scoring a hat trick, including his famous called shot against future Hall of Fame goalie Dominik Hasek. After that basement-dwelling season, Sims was fired. He never coached in the NHL again. A quick story of my teenage adulthood in that season. Despite the team being bad, I would tune into as many games as I could on the radio in a unique way. I would leech off the cable TV my mom had through my VCR, so I was unable to watch Sports Channel Unscrambled until the 2000s. I would tune to the radio because I seemed to get their old flagship station at the time, KFRC, very well. So while I heard Dan Rusanowski call the action on the ice, I would play hockey video games on either my Sega Genesis, Sega Saturn, or when the 1998 season started, my Sony PlayStation. I would play different games throughout the periods and take breaks during the intermission. The Sharks had an unusual schedule that week. 3 home games, 2 were against the Edmonton Oilers, but they were on a Monday and a Friday with the Toronto Maple Leafs in the middle of those 2 games. This game would be a significant moment of my life. It would be the last sporting event I would attend with my dad. I would get to see 2 great goaltenders of the 1990s. In net for the Oilers was Curtis Joseph. Affectionately known as Cujo, Joseph was in his second of 3 seasons with the Oilers. I would like to consider him one of the most overlooked netminders in the 90s and 2000s, with a decent career goals against average of 2.79 and a career save percentage of .910. Cujo was a 3-time All-Star in 1994, 1999, 2000, and he won the King Clancy Memorial Trophy in 2000 for leadership on and off the ice and significant contributions to the community. He retired after the 2008 season as a member of the Calgary Flames. Starting for the Sharks was a highly decorated rental and someone who would, for a few years, become the most hated man in San Jose, right after Theoren Fleury. A week after the 1997 All-Star Game, the Blackhawks traded Ed Belfour to the Sharks for Ulf Dahlen, Michael Sikora, and Chris Terreri. The 1996-97 season was the lowest ebb in Belfour's Hall of Fame career. Having Eddie the Eagle wear a teal sweater, even if it was for a fleeting moment, was pretty cool. It was an honor to see this guy play and see him play in a Sharks uniform. Even when he was the enemy, it was still a joy. Unlike my first visit to the Shark Tank, which was in a luxurious setting, my seats would be in the upper bowl, a few sections from the Rowdies that sat in section 209, a section I would frequent often when I started getting my own tickets to Sharks games at the turn of the century. 90 seconds into the first period, Darren Turcotte would put the first goal on the board, putting the Sharks ahead 1-0. Assisted by Tony Granato. Jeff Friesen would be sent to the box for cross-checking at 4:01. Halfway through the ensuing Edmonton power play, Ryan Smith, a rising star on the Oilers, and he would become a thorn in the Sharks' side in the 2006 playoffs, would tie the game. Doug Weight with the assist. At 10:28, the Oilers would strike again, this time shorthanded after future Shark Brian Marchment was sent to the box after an obstruction tripping call. Mats Lindgren scored shorthanded, giving the Oilers the lead. Assisted by Kelly Bookberger and Luke Richardson. At 14:53, the Sharks special teams would have an answer after Steve Kelly was called for roughing. Owen Nolan scored on the power play to tie the game. Doug Bodger and Greg Hoggood provided the helpers on the equalizer. Near the end of the period, Turcotte would find the net again for his second goal of the night to put the Sharks ahead 3-2. Assisted by Nolan and stick-swinging Marty McSorley. At 6:35 in the second period, it got a little interesting. Some antics after the whistle caused 4 penalties to be called between the two teams. Bob Airey got called for charging. Nolan, Greg DeVree, and Joseph all got roughing calls. Nothing would come of the post-whistle shenanigans. After Dan McGillis got called for interference for the Oilers at 12:58, Nolan, along with Steve Gwala and Bodger, made the Oilers pay with Nolan's second goal of the game at 14:09. This gave the Sharks a 2-goal lead and won everyone who went there a free personal pizza from Round Table Pizza. The scoreboard operator screwed up, saying Nolan got a hat trick. I debated on whether to throw my hat on the ice. I didn't. On that night, people who walked through the door were given free mouse pads. Some of the fans threw their mouse pads on the ice after the goal was scored. A new rule in the NHL was instilled that year that unless if the goal was a hat trick goal, nothing was to be thrown on the ice or a delay of game penalty would be assessed to the home team. This was the NHL's way to put the kibosh on Florida Panther fans throwing their toy rats on the ice after every Panthers home goal was scored. Nothing much happened in the third period. A couple of penalties were called and Andrei Kovalenko would bring the Oilers within 1, with the late game tally at 17-11 from Smith and McGillis. It wouldn't be enough. Sharks would hold on for the 4-3 win. It would be the first and only time I would see Ed Belfour wear a Shark sweater in person. Belfour would become a free agent in the offseason and sign with the Dallas Stars. Many Sharks fans, such as myself, saw it as a slap in the face, but I understood why. Despite losing in the first round of the 1997 playoffs to these same Oilers, the Stars were a team that looked to do some damage in the league for years to come. The Stars went to the conference finals in 1998, won the Stanley Cup in 1999, and came up short defending the Cup, losing to the New Jersey Devils in the 2000 finals. Brian Marchment was traded to the Lightning, then traded to the Sharks in the 1997-98 season. Belfour leaving for Dallas, and Marchment nearly ending Joe Nieuwendyke's career in the 1998 playoffs would flare up a heated rivalry for the next few seasons. For a few years, Sharks fans like myself despised the Stars more than the Kings and Ducks combined. I mentioned earlier that this would be the final sporting event I went to with my dad. He and I lost touch over the course of a few years. A lot of fun times I enjoyed at the ballpark in the early 90s was with him, whether it be a Giants game, A's game, a few college football games, a couple of 49er games we went to, or the 2 Sharks games we checked out. I completely lost contact with him at the turn of the century. In March of 2001, I got the word that he passed away at the age of 57. No one told me he died until my mom called my work to tell me. No one told me he was dying. No one told me he was even sick. Nothing. I'm sure there were reasons why I was kept in the dark. I don't want to know, nor do I care to know. All I know is he's been dead before patriotism became a trend again, and so many things have happened since his death that I really wish he was still here, even if I did lose contact because of my shame of having my life stuck in neutral in my young adulthood. The day after I heard of his passing, I went to a Sharks game where they hosted the Los Angeles Kings. It would go down as one of the top 10 games I've attended. The Sharks coming back from 2 goals down and winning in overtime. After the game was over, I pointed to the roof of the newly named Compaq Center at San Jose and said, "That one was for you, Dad. Even though I lost touch with him in the last years of his life, I still do miss him, and I still do have fond memories of my time with him and the family he remarried into after my parents split up when I was 4. But on that night in March, it was just like old times. I would spend the weekend with my dad, we would go to a sporting event, and I would scream my head off. We did it together one last time on March 28th, 1997.